This is Face the Nation, broadcasting live from the CNN IBN headquarters in New Delhi with Sagarika Ghosh.
Hi there. Yes, there is a raging controversy on the internet and in the political class about the government's attempt to regulate what it calls objectionable content on the internet. Telecom Minister Kapil Sibbal's move to pre-screen content on social websites like Facebook and Google has sparked off a fierce debate. Sibbal says he's trying to prevent the inciting of religious passions. The websites have claimed that their content is already subject to guidelines. Is the government playing Big Brother? Sumit Pandey has the story.
Across the political spectrum, they have used various social networking sites to communicate with the masses. Now the messenger itself is at the center of a raging political debate. With Telecom Minister Kapil Sibal meeting representatives of Facebook, Yahoo, Google and Microsoft seeking to devise a screening mechanism which disables derogatory content on their platform, including against the top political leadership of the UPA and some which can hurt religious sentiments.
We will not allow the religious sentiments of large sections of the community to be hurt in this fashion, and we will not allow intermediaries to say that we throw up our hands, we can't do anything about it.
Government says social networking sites are non-committal on a foolproof screening mechanism. Facebook, in a reaction, has said, "We recognize the government's interest in minimizing the amount of abusive content and will continue to engage with the Indian authorities." But the issue has already triggered a political war of words, with some like Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah and Congress MP Shashi Tharoor coming out in support of the minister, while others like BJP's Varun Gandhi are opposed to any regulations.
My point is, if you look at the history of the world over the last few years, it is the internet that has led to the ultimate democratization of the news.
The Indian government's move to screen the social networking sites has also attracted global attention as well, with questions being asked and comparisons being drawn whether India is doing a China in dealing with internet content.
The timing of this move has also raised many eyebrows, as it comes just before Anna Hazare prepares to launch another round of protest on Lokpal Bill. In the past, Team Anna has made extensive use of these social networking sites to mobilize support. In New Delhi, Sumit Pandey.
And joining us tonight, Pawan Duggal, consultant and cyber law expert, joining us. Suhail Seth will just be joining us in just a bit. He's managing partner of Counselage. We have Shivam Vij, blogger and journalist. Right here in our studio, Sunil Abraham, executive director of Center for Internet and Society, and Rahul Roshan, Faking News, who we know very well, editor of fakingnews.com. The question we're asking, should social networking sites be censored? The question that Kapil Sibal is raising is that when religious passions are being incited by certain networking sites, then the government has a right to control those sites, to protect religious passions from being inflamed and causing riots. Your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know why the government needs something special to do that. You know, I mean, our country is already, this is a regressive thing to do. I mean, even you had to withdraw a tweet because some people objected that it incites religious sentiments. I mean, MF Hussain had to leave this country because people thought he was insulting religious sentiments. And to what an extent are we going to, extend this logic? Now, one cannot say anything on Twitter, one cannot draw a painting, anything. So this thing, I think he has just come up with this excuse to, actually conceal what the real intentions of the government
is political and to stop political criticism. But on the other hand, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Countries do regulate the internet. I mean, there are countries that place curbs on the internet. Great Britain, the mother of democracy, actually contemplated putting controls on the internet after the London riots and after Facebook was supposed to have sparked off those riots or supposed to have played a part in sparking off those riots. So is there some case to be made that content cannot be completely free on these social web networking sites?
As soon as UK politicians made those announcements, they attracted congratulatory messages from the politicians in China and Iran, and many of them rolled back and decided that they did not want such surveillance measures or limitations on freedom of expression. Freedom of expression in India is a constitutionally guaranteed right, and across the world in democracies this is so. But it doesn't mean it's an absolute right. None of our rights are absolute rights. There are limits on freedom of expression in India, and some of these limits deal with the anxiety that the government has today. For example, inciting somebody to commit an offense or an act of criminal intimidation or an act of defamation. These are existing offenses in Indian law. Whether these acts are commissioned over the internet or through some other media, it doesn't really matter. So we already have in our constitutional framework,
that becomes law enforcement.
Safeguards.
If I set up a Facebook page saying I'm about to plant a bomb in New Delhi railway station, or I'm making a plan to assassinate Rahul Gandhi, if I make that kind of Facebook page, then I would attract the attention of the law.
Yes.
And that would be a case where Facebook and Twitter would report my case to the law enforcement agencies, and I would be proceeded by law. You don't shut the service down.
Yes, and you don't also need what he is currently asking for, what the minister is currently asking for, which is a screening or a preemptive censorship regime. What we have in most countries is a post facto censorship regime, which is somebody complains and then intermediaries act upon that complaint and take down the content, and if there is any confusion about the legitimacy of the takedown notice, then a court has the final say. And even in India, this is the case. If there are going to be limits on freedom of expression, then it is not for Mr. Sibbal to say, or for you or me to say.
It's peer review. It's for people to complain. It's for the server. It's for the service provider to actually report that, and for the courts to then judge whether or not this should be put on or not.
Service providers do some amount of,
but they do some amount of content control in any case.
Yes, community management. For example, picture of a woman feeding her child. Facebook has very strict community guidelines which determine what portion of the breast can be exposed in the photograph, etc. So they already do police in a private censorship regime to protect the communities. But absolute limits on speech, especially coming from executive orders such as these, those will be unconstitutional unless they are in compliance with existing law and court orders.
So you simply cannot censor, you cannot pre-screen. Pawan Duggal, what recourse is there in law? Is Google or Facebook or Twitter, are they bound by Indian law? And if there is certain objectionable content, then can that be, can the law courts provide recourse and not actually censoring the website?
I think the law is very, very clear. Whenever you are providing any service on the network, you are an intermediary and you are governed by the IT Act of the country. The Indian IT law says that it is applicable to any person of any nationality anywhere in the world, so long as it is impacting a computer system or network that's physically located in our country. So the Googles, the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world, despite being not incorporated in India, cannot argue that they are not governed by Indian law, primarily because they are still targeting the Indian community and they are targeting Indian networks. Having said that, they have a particular liability under Section 79 of the IT Act. Now, this is the liability for third-party data should they fail to do due diligence and should they fail to comply with the rules and regulations. Now, the IT rules 2011 specifically mandate these service providers to remove any defamatory content within 36 hours of their notification or of the said content being brought to the knowledge of the intermediaries. Now, in this classical case, the government has seen that the social media service providers have not removed it for four weeks. Now the question is, rather than taking legal action against them, registering a criminal case for offences under Section 66A and 67 of the IT Act, punishable with 3 years imprisonment and fine, the government says, sorry, hold on, let me have a direct talk with them, let me try to encourage them into some kind of a self-regulatory mechanism. Now, how often that has happened, that the government will talk to an offender and say, Chief, you are governed by law, but don't worry, let's talk once again, and how can you
so what you're saying
voluntarily comply
so
with
what you're saying is that the government can take Facebook and Google and Twitter to court if it wants.
Absolutely.
And that's the recourse that the government should take.
That's one of the recourses available. They can also fine these social media sites for an amount up to 10 lakh rupees. Further, certain damages by way of compensation can also be asked for. Now, but the fact is, none of these legal remedies are being resorted to. Instead, we are talking of some kind of an amorphous regime which could lay the seeds for internet censorship. And I think internet censorship in India will just not work.
Internet censorship will just not work. Suhail Seth is joining us. Suhail Seth, I know you have very strong views on the kind of abuse and vilification that is there on social networking sites. But on the other hand, you know, how can you possibly censor or seek to control the social media? Also, many would argue that the social media plays a very directly beneficial role, even a welfare role. Some have said it's that it's as indispensable as roads and water and electricity. It provides infrastructure, roles in society during accidents, during blasts, during emergencies. The social media really rises to the occasion and provides relief.
Shagrika, there is no truck with the argument about the efficacy of the social media when used well. It's as much of an analogy as a knife. You can kill it. You can use it to kill people. You can also use it to cut cheese or cucumber, whatever you have. So the argument, however, is in a world which is increasingly becoming intolerant, in a world where inflammatory stuff is so easy to viral, what kind of controls and checks need to be instituted? A. B. Do they need to be instituted at the government end? I would imagine not. That is why I think what Kapil Sibal did was he called those companies, and only 4 or 5 of them, however many. The bigger argument, Shagrika, is that as time goes by, the efficacy of social media will also be abused by those people who know its inherent power. I mean, Twitter can be used to rally up blood donation for a blood group that is not available in a hospital in Sion. It can also be used to create bloodshed if used in a violent, vile, vicious manner. So the argument is, do you want a situation where there is absolutely no self-regulation? Because also a lot of people, under the guise of anonymity, inflict cowardice and venom.
That's a very good point.
So where is this going to end?
Shivam Vij, there is a lot of vicious abuse on Twitter. Let's face it, I've been at the receiving end of it. There have been a lot of people at the receiving end of it. It's vicious, it's by anonymous people, and it is unrelenting. Now, the media, we are abiding by rules and regulations.
This is the Sagar, this is the 3rd or 4th time you're asking me this question on this show. Let me just go back to the New York Times story yesterday that revealed all of this. The New York Times story said that Kapil Sibal showed Facebook a page against Sonia Gandhi. Now that the shit has hit the fan, it's all become about communal violence and incitement and abuse, whereas yesterday it seemed it was about politics. That's number 1. 2, please tell me how many riots or cases of violence Facebook or Twitter has incited in India? You know, the Bharatpur violence recently, communal violence, was it Facebook? Was Gujarat violence Facebook? Number 3, about abuse, my answer is simple. It's about the law. If you think the law of the land has been violated, Sagarika, if anybody has tweeted you something that you think is illegal, please go and file a case in the police station. Right? If there is abuse that you think is not illegal, but it's abusive and it hurts you, there are ways to deal with it. 1, ignore it. 2, block the person. 3, report to Twitter. I think that's a lot. How much more do you want?
But let me get you to respond to that's you know, this is freedom of opinion. This is a democracy. We have the right to give opinions, and the adage of democracy is shout, don't shoot. So we have the freedom to ventilate so long as we're not shooting each other. And the point is, but respond to what Suhail was saying, because you were getting agitated on that point, that Twitter and Facebook can be used for blood donation camps. It can also be used to incite bloodshed.
Yes, so inciting violence is one of the 6 limits on freedom of expression in Article 19(2)
No, but it's done. It happens on social websites, social networking sites.
Yeah, so the moment it happens, there is almost an audit trail. You can make a request, the government will make a request for user information. The IP addresses and accounts of the people that have posted the information, even anonymously, will be provided to the government, because this is now an offense under investigation. And then suitable remedies will be provided by courts. So the system already takes all of this into account.
But you know, that is an extreme case. That is an extreme case. But isn't the system already